And welcome back to Subculture on CentralCoastRadio.com. Well, of course, those of you who listened to last week's show would know that I was heading along to the Butterfly Club in Melbourne this week to check out a brand new production called The Waiting Room. Now, this is a very, very interesting production because if you remember back to the interview last week, the cast and crew told us that they wanted this to be part of the Monologue Festival that is on in Melbourne. So in order to do that, they had to kind of create a theatre show that is made up of monologues. And the idea behind The Waiting Room is that these are people who have just died and they've ended up in God's waiting room. And through monologues, we basically learn about each character who, let's be honest, are kind of pitching why they should be in heaven or pitching their case to try and get into heaven. So the first character that we were introduced to last night as part of this amazing theatre show was Elise Batson, playing a character who you get the feeling has been alone and depressed for a lot of her life. She talks about the fact that she's never had a boyfriend or anything like that. So she kind of feels that she should be in heaven because of what's happened to her during life. She also talks about the loss of her brother as well. Then we have Roxy, played by Delaram Amidi, and she's done some bad things. She'll admit that. She has slept with her sister's partner, but she puts most of that blame on her star sign because she's a Scorpio. Then the next character is Harry, played by Amelia Dunn. And she's ready for this. She's got cue cards ready to go, and she's ready to talk about the different things that's happened in her life, and dating incidents, and just a whole bunch of different things. So she's ready for this. And then comes the Louisa, played by Fiona Crombie. And she talks about the different things that she's gone through with her family as well. And she has one of the more funniest scenes where she accidentally blasphemes in front of a character that I guess could either be God or the Grim Reaper. But yeah, that part is played by Rory Harmon, and yeah, there's an interesting bit there where Louisa keeps on blaspheming and has to keep on getting warned about that. And then the last character is Maggie, played by Laura Naggs, and she spins a wild story about an event at a Toorak mansion, but there's a difference to her story. I don't want to go into spoiler territory, but it's kind of, did it happen or didn't it happen kind of thing. So you get very, very different and varied characters, and as a result of that, you get very different and varied monologues with this production as well. So for me, they all worked remarkably well. There's just something about the power of these monologues where they really draw the audience in. You really get a feeling like you know these characters as you're listening to these monologues, and there's a real power there. Like you start to think, what would it be like basically pitching for yourself to get into heaven? But it's also interesting how these characters face that as well. Like there's some who are kind of hostile towards the god / being Grim Reaper character, and then there's others that it basically feels like they're begging for their spot in heaven. I think that is one of the things I loved about this production, is that there's that mystery about the character that Rory Harmon is playing, because there's there's moments throughout this production where things change, especially for that character. Sometimes he feels hostile towards the women that are talking to him, and then other times there's almost like the sexual moments as well, which happens with Roxy, and you kind of think, where is this leading to? But look, this is a very, very well written and brilliantly performed production. It's the kind of production that has this real power that's going to make you stop and think about things in your own life, and even like what heaven is like. Like, I found myself thinking while I was watching this last night, what happens at that moment that you die? Like, is this kind of what happens? Do you suddenly find yourself in this waiting room kind of area the moment that you die? Like, this is one of those productions that is so powerful, it will make you stop and think. In fact, I think it's one of the most powerful productions that I have seen this year. So, yeah, keep an eye out to see if The Waiting Room ends up being performed anywhere else, because, like I said, this is an absolutely amazing performance. The monologues are well delivered by a brilliant cast who are all at the top of their game. It's all well brought together by Ellen O'Connor. I do have a lot of questions after watching this production, like I said, especially around the celestial being kind of character. But look, I just really, really enjoyed this production. I found myself at times like moving forward on my seat because I almost felt like I wanted to be closer to the stage. There was just this real feeling going around the room with the production that was just absolutely brilliant. Something that you don't hear or feel very often, I probably should say. But look, this is a brilliant production. One of the most powerful I've seen this year. So if you see The Waiting Room coming back anywhere, definitely go along and see it, because this is a powerful piece of theatre.